So Jamie, welcome back for the third, and hopefully it's not going to be our final episode of Molecular Mixology, but it's the final one for this set of segments here. Now, for you thinking about molecular mixology, how many different ways do you think there are in imparting that whole concept into the different drinks you make?
How many different ways?
Yeah.
I would hope endless. I encourage creativity and experimentation and trying to give guests new experience in palatable ways. Mm-hmm. You know, so I would hope that, you know, in 2 years' time something else will have happened, and who knows, maybe we'll be breathing in cocktails and getting all the flavors without the calories. I don't know. You know.
Now, would you want to do a cocktail menu that just had molecular mixology cocktails on it?
No, not at all. Not at all. People come to a bar to socialize, to have drinks, not to have to think about everything. There's a little bit of thinking involved in molecular mixology, even as a guest, as someone who's experienced the drinks. I think it's a neat idea. It's a neat way you can deconstruct drinks. It's a neat way to bring ideas or old drinks to a customer's or guest's forefront. But I don't recommend having an entire list of molecular mixology. It can enhance drinks, but I mean, the cocktail is still what people are after. It's what we're striving for.
Now, the drink we're doing in this episode is what?
I've called this one 90 Years of Aviation. So essentially what I've done is I've taken an old classic 1916 Aviation and sort of deconstructed it. Most people can't get Violette liqueur and are making the Aviation with just gin, maraschino, and lemon juice. And I know that Violette syrup is available readily. So I've gone and made a Violette Caviar that is outside of the drink.
Caviar, is there any fish involved here? Is it a non-vegetarian drink?
Or? There are no fish involved. What caviar means in the world of molecular mixology is little beads, caviar-like beads of flavor. They can be made with essentially anything, and they look like caviar, and hence the name. The way we're going to do it is, again, a way that anyone who has access to a half-decent grocery store can do this drink. We're not going to be using any chemicals. The proper molecular mixology way to do it is with sodium alginate and calcium chloride.
Which my Safeway doesn't carry those ingredients.
No, you normally have to buy them in bulk via the internet, coming from Spain or France, or, you know, sometimes in the United States. But, you know, you have to make sure it's food safe, and you're using these chemicals, and it's not necessary. If you're doing it on a large scale, maybe, but if you're doing it for your home bar, or you just want to try it out and see how it works, you can actually make caviar using local grocery ingredients. Okay. We're going to do that today. So, the first part of making the caviar is making the sauce, the flavoring, what the actual caviar is going to be. And today it's going to be a Violette Caviar. So what we have here is a little portable stove with a pot, something to stir with, and ingredients we're going to use. Now, all the ingredients are liquid, and so we have to figure out a way to make them solid. And what we're going to do is we're going to use gelatin for that. In this case, I'm using gelatin sheets, which are available in some grocery stores, but not all of them. I use the sheets because you have more control over it. It's you know, a full sheet, a half sheet. It's very easy to control, and it works the same way every time. You can use gelatin powder. With all these caviars, it's going to take a little bit of experimentation. There is no tried and true recipe. X number of sheets with X amount of liquid will produce a perfect caviar. If you're using alcohol, it's going to not solidify as much. You're going to need a little bit more, depending on what you're using. If you're using fruit puree, it's already fairly thick. You're not going to need a lot of gelatin. If you're using just juices, you're going to need more gelatin. So you have to play around with it. So when you're using gelatin sheets, the first thing you have to do is you have to bloom them. And what that means is stick them in cold water and let them soak up some moisture. So we're going to be using 2. So I have some cold water ready. Just in a mixing glass, just nothing fancy here, nice and simple.
Now with gelatin powder, you also bloom that. But with the sheets, when you're pulling them out of there, you're actually pulling them out of the liquid you're using it.
Yes.
What you do then is take the gelatin powder and probably bloom it in one of your liquids.
Absolutely. And just like in the foam, you can actually have water as an ingredient in your caviar. So that's not a problem. Mm-hmm. You just have to factor that in when you're making everything. So while this is blooming, we're going to be adding the ingredients to the pot. We're going to be adding lemon juice. We're going to be adding Violette syrup. And we're going to be adding Parfait Amour. And we're sticking all that in, and we're mixing it around just to get all the flavors combined together. Now, the only reason why we have this on a pot is when we take the gelatin out, we just need to dissolve it. And so we're not boiling, we're not even cooking now. We're going to add the gelatin and then turn on the stove and just stir until the gelatin disappears. And right away, as soon as it's gone, we take it off. So this should be good and bloomed by now, and it is. It's nice and soft. I'm tearing in my hands. There we are. So everything, just squeeze out, the excess moisture, stick it in here, turn on your stove, and stir till the gelatin is all gone.
How long does that take about?
Seconds, okay. Depending on your stove. If you have a gas stove, seconds. If you have, an electric stove, maybe a little bit longer. But you'll see it. There'll be sheets, and then there won't be sheets. It's dissolved. Through the magic of television, we're going to stick this liquid into a squeeze bottle. Mm-hmm. Now you want to have a squeeze bottle with a very small hole, because you're going to actually be making the caviar with this hole. Now the secret to making caviar, or to be making very easy non-chemical caviar, is canola oil. What we're going to do is we're going to take a tub of canola oil and put it in the freezer. And you want to have it as cold as possible without it actually going solid. So I have some ready right here. If I can get the lid off. There we are. And so this is just straight canola oil, nothing special about it. And what we're going to do is we're going to drop beads of the sauce that you just made, in this case a Violette sauce, into the caviar. And because of its viscosity, and because of this viscosity, it's going to naturally, through the wonderful world of nature, form balls.
And the coldness of the oil is playing a role in actually forming the balls.
It is. It makes this more viscous, and it also helps solidify the gelatin mixture. Mm-hmm. Now, one thing I did forget to mention, after you put it in the pot and put it in here, this needs to be chilled down. It needs to be put in the fridge and brought to fridge temperature.
So it's almost turned into like a solid gelatin, like a Jell-O salad or something.
It becomes like a viscous, thick sauce. Yep. If during your experimentation you accidentally make it a complete solid, not to worry at all. Throw it back in the pot, add more liquids, whatever liquids you're using, heat it up till the gelatin disappears again, throw it back in here, start all over. Mm-hmm. If it's not very viscous at all and too much of a liquid, well then add a little bit more gelatin, same thing. It's very easy to tweak.
So if I think through the science of this is like I said, you're just making Jell-O, and Jell-O is a solid.
I'm making an almost Jell-O.
Almost Jell-O. So
yes.
This is almost Jell-O. And so you've got it partially chilled here,
yes.
And this is just adding the further chilling, and the fact that that's very viscous is allowing the droplets, rather than turning into a solid stream or whatever, it's making the bubbles form.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's liquid and because that's oil. If you put water in oil, it forms balls.
Yep.
So that's what the oil is doing. It's wrapping it around and causing this to form balls. Mm-hmm. And then this is going to be ice cold, and so it's going to help further, as you said, solidify. And it will make beautiful little beads of caviar.
Okay.
So we're going to do this. So with a careful hand, you want to do, if you want really small caviars, you just do one drop. But if you do 2 or 3 drops in a row, they'll actually run into each other and make a bigger drop. So we'll see that right here. So I did 4 there, and it just slowly falls down to the bottom. And you can see them making nice round pieces of caviar. And you can just keep doing that until you have as much caviar as you want. And the whole thing is you don't even need to take them out right away. If you're not ready for this for a while, you can actually just throw this back into your freezer, into your fridge, and take them out as you need them. Now to take these out, it's quite simple. Get an empty container, get a strainer of some kind, something like this is fine, and then pour the oil through the strainer and so you can keep reusing this oil. Mm-hmm. And then what's going to be left in your strainer is little bits of caviar. Just rinse them off in cold water to get excess oil off, and away you go. No chemicals necessary.
Easy, easy,
very, very easy. I'll get this out of the way. So we have the caviar already. Now we're going to make the drink. So essentially, we're going to make an Aviation. We're going to be using gin, maraschino liqueur, and lemon juice.
Now in your juices, I'm noticing you're using a standard pour rather than the big speed pours that a lot of people have in the plastic jugs.
Yes. Never been a big fan of those. I believe in measuring and having as much control over your liquids as possible. And juices, just because they cost less than alcohol, doesn't mean you should have less control over them. And so I like using glass bottles because we have lots of them here. And so before, we clean them out, and I think they look nicer, and you have just better control, and you can have more of them in your ice than you can with the big fat plastic containers. It's just a matter of preference.
Okay.
Give that a good shake. And now we're going to do a nice presentation for this caviar on this Aviation. I have a plate ready. And so what we've done is we have our Aviation. Now I'm just double straining this because I don't want any excess pulp or a whole bunch of ice crystals in my drink. Just makes for a nice, cleaner presentation, I think. And we have an Aviation with a little side of Violette Caviar and a little spoon. And the way I would serve this to a guest is I would give it to them as such and have them taste the Aviation so they know pretty much how it's being made nowadays. And then on their next sip, take the spoon and take a little bit of the caviar, stick it in your mouth, and then take a sip of the Aviation again, and it will just dissolve in your mouth. Or you can just have little bites of caviar in between your sips of Aviation. It's a wonderful mouthfeel and wonderful use of the Violette flavor in the Aviation.
And that's because, like today, the Aviation is one of those drinks that all the classic bars are really circling around.
Yes.
Because it's a rediscovery of a drink that really was a classic drink.
Absolutely.
And yet, since the original recipe had lavender syrup in it, but the second recipe did not, a lot of people have thinking this is the correct way to make an Aviation. Exactly. And you're saying no, this with that is actually the real original Aviation.
Yes, the Violette was the way it was originally made. Violette syrup is extremely hard to get in the United States. So this is a neat way and fun way that you can give the person the proper experience.
So, thank you, Jamie.
My pleasure.
Enjoyed all this instruction about molecular mixology, and I look forward to talking again about it.
Excellent.
Thanks.